Hello everybody and welcome to World of Tanks, and this right here I have is the Object 252U Defender. This is one of the brand new tanks that just came out in the store recently. I think it just came out like 5 days ago, and goddamn, this tank, it is very glorious. It is literally the most communist tank I have ever seen. It has a communist paint job on this side, a communist logo with a communist flag. Okay, it does not come with a communist flag, but that is just on me. I'll be completely honest with everybody. This Object 252U Defender, I gotta say, in some ways, this tank might be a little bit OP. I was suckered into getting this tank, and the reason for that is because I was getting my ass handed to me on a silver plate with fish next to it by a bunch of Object 252U Defenders on the battlefield. I just couldn't seem to kill them. And these things seem to, really take me out in just like a couple of hits. So what is it that makes this tank so special? Is it the armor? Is it the gun? Is it mobility? Well, in reality, it's all three, really. Comparing this to the IS-3. I don't have the IS-3 in my garage right now. I'm not really sure why. I'm kind of... It's probably just because I have this Fatherland IS-3A instead. But if you compare the Defender to the IS-3... Alright, I'm just going to take a quick look at the guns between the two tanks. Now, the IS-3, everybody kind of knows that the IS-3 has 390 average damage on its gun, and 221 millimeters of penetration with the standard rounds. Now the Defender. Now, the thing about this tank is that the IS-3 was known for having a really big boomstick on the gun. But this thing pretty much has, like, instead of 390, it's 440 average damage and 225 millimeters of penetration and 265 with the premium heat. Oh wait, that's APCR. Oh, it also does 530 average damage. But the one thing about the Defender is its rate of fire is a lot slower than the IS-3. It's 3.87 rounds per minute, which isn't very good. In fact, just to put this into perspective, one of the heavy tanks that had the lowest DPM at this tier, which is the T-34. Let me find that real quick. Alright, this tank. What's the rate of fire on this thing? Alright, 4 rounds per minute. So this thing was initially known for having one of the lowest DPMs at tier 8. But I'm actually going to have to look up to see. But I think the Defender's DPM might be slightly worse. I could be wrong, but to me it looks like it's got about the same DPM as a T-34. Okay, so I just did the math for all the DPM. So it turns out the Defender has 1,700 DPM, like damage per minute, and so strangely enough, it actually does have better damage per minute than the T-34, which really sinks below at like 1,600. So the Defender, it's got 1,700 DPM. So this tank actually has 100 more damage per minute than the T-34. Although, let's be completely real. In a real battle, this isn't really gonna matter. I mean, I don't think you're gonna do 100 damage. Like, I don't think there's gonna be 100 like damage for like a difference. Because if you think about it, it's only gonna pump out rounds that only do about 440 damage per shot. But at least we can say that it's more likely to do more damage in a minute than the T-34 is. But interestingly, compared to the IS-3A, the IS-3A, this tank actually, I was very surprised, but this tank has about 2,000 damage per minute, which in reality, which pretty much just is one extra shot compared to the Defender. So that could just be, that could be a bit of an issue. Besides that, though, the gun's great. Oh, and one more thing. The aiming time, 3.4 seconds. If you're playing Russian tanks, I'm sure you'll be used to that ridiculously long aiming time on a lot of the heavy tanks, like the IS-3. Even the T-34 has a 3.4 second aiming time, which doesn't really make sense to me, but okay. But a 3.4 second aiming time, you could get by that. It's a real pain. I mean, you have to sit there and wait forever to land a shot off, but you know, you can get used to it. Although I think the real nut kicker right here is the accuracy, which is 0.47. And having 0.47 on a standard tank gun isn't very good. In fact, this tank is going to be missing more of the shots than the ones it's actually going to be hitting. So I'm pretty sure you're most likely guessing that the way you're going to play this tank with that aiming time and with that accuracy is that you're probably going to have to get close to your enemies. And, well, I'm pretty sure one thing you know, if you want to get close to your enemies, you're going to need a fast tank. You can't have something slow like the T-95 or the Mouse. I'm surprised, this tank is actually pretty fast. In fact, it's a lot faster than what I expected. It's got a 700 horsepower engine, which isn't too bad. It's got a 13.5 horsepower per ton ratio. But the mobility, though, I'm actually surprised it's not that bad on this tank, and considering how much it weighs and how heavy, I mean, well, how thick the armor is. It only tops out at 35 kilometers per hour, but unlike tanks like the IS-7 or the IS-4, I mean, this tank can actually reach its top speed on flat ground with no problem. So here's the armor visual. Bam! Look at that. Okay, so it looks a lot like, you know, the thickness of the IS-3. It's pretty decently thick. Here's the fatherland. I mean, you got some really thick parts on the turret. The mantlet is impenetrable. It's pretty rounded. Yeah. So, okay, this tank kind of has a heavily armored Russian turret, near impenetrable, very well sloped, very rounded, yada yada yada, ding 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 ding. But what's so special about this tank is the hull armor. Now, the Soviet heavy tanks have something what's called a pike nose. This pike nose kind of goes like this. Like if you point your tank straight towards the enemy, if you shoot at the upper hull, it's just going to ricochet because it's so well sloped. You can't really zoom in any further than this, but like those two. But you know, if you turn sideways, then your whole frontal hull becomes a weak spot, and well, it's going to be a problem. So the thing about this tank is, it's just that armor. I mean, that turret. I mean, the only way you're going to pen the turret is if you get on top of it and shoot the hatches. And if this tank is hiding its lower plate, it's just the thing is you're not really going to be able to pen this tank because that pike nose is so goddamn thick. Besides that lower plate being an issue on the Defender, one extra little issue I have with this, seeing its pike nose, it's so piked. If you're coming around a corner with the Defender, and this tank does have some spaced armor, but it doesn't have spaced armor over the tracks. Nor does it have spaced armor over the drive wheel, which just happens to be a trend over with most of the Russian tanks. But I'm pretty sure you've noticed that with this tank, unlike many other tanks, the armor plating that goes over the tracks, like you can see there's some armor over the tracks on the T10 here. You don't have that on the Defender, which is really strange, considering the kind of machine that this is. I mean, it's like it's just begging to get blown up by artillery. Oh, hey, check me out, I'm literally half naked in a tank, and oh god, both my tracks are blown up. What I would do, if you're trying to hold a position, like, don't drive out sideways, that's literally the dumbest thing you can do. What I would do is either slightly side scrape to make the pike nose just thick enough, like right around this kind of an angle, so any shot that hits the tank will just most likely bounce off. Or, I found this to be pretty useful with the Defender, you can reverse side scrape with this tank. Just where you want to shoot this tank is the tracks. The tracks is a fantastic place to blow this tank off, and if you shoot the drive wheels with this fantastic Russian design, And the way that this game works, you can shoot through the tires and you can shoot into the tank because that's how physics works. But that is a way you can kill the defender. Just blow the truck off and shoot the drive wheel like that. You will damage it every single time. But if you do happen to be in the situation where the defender isn't sideways, which is usually quite often, just shoot the lower plate. It's the only safe guarantee I can give you to killing this tank. And well, that's not really easy because again, the lower plate is still about 150 millimeters thick and it is a bit sloped. It's not sloped very well, but it is still sloped, so you can still ricochet off of it. But I'm just saying that is probably the safest haven to killing this tank. I mean, if that lower plate isn't exposed, you are going to have a real pain in the ass trying to pen this tank because it is so incredibly well sloped. If I were to compare this to any other tank in the game, I'm literally just going to say that the Defender is very much like the IS-7 down 2 tiers. They play almost exactly the same. The IS-7, I think everybody knows that this tank has a very derpy gun for its tier. It has a 2.9 second aiming time, which isn't great for tier 10, but everybody knows that with this tank, I mean, that aiming time doesn't really matter because, well, you're not really sniping in the IS-7. This thing wasn't built to snipe, it was built to fight on the front line, and it does a very good job at it. It's the same with the Defender. It has pretty bad gun handling, it's got very bad accuracy, it's got very well, it's got very good armor on this tank. Yeah, this is a tank. I'm just gonna say this tank is literally made to go on the front line. I'm just telling people now, don't sit in the back in the bushes. Not only are you screwing the team from a victory, but you are also hardly gonna do any damage with this tank because of that .47 accuracy, which is just a heap of garbage. Anyway, okay, so but what I find interesting about this tank, and I've seen pictures of the standard 252U on the PC, but what's interesting is that the standard 252U actually has the track armor covering up the entire tank. It actually goes across the entire thing. What the duck? Seriously, I don't get it. I don't know why the armor just stops halfway through on this thing. I mean, I can see some design, it looks like it's a little bit chipped off, but... Oh, well, oh, look, it's a little bit thicker on this. It's got a little more track armor on this side. Well, whoopee, that's gonna save your life one day. You just wait. Communism's on your side. Anyway, so there's a concealment. I'll be completely honest. Don't rely on the concealment on this tank. Because with this tank, you're going to be at point-blank range, and the thing about World of Tanks is that you can't really go invisible when you're in the face of an enemy tank. Now what about other things like view range and signal range? Well, view range on this tank is pretty bollocks. It's not very good. Only 350 meters view range. That is not good, and in fact for tier 8 that's considered legally blind by US standards. Now, it does have 730 meter signal range. If I compare that to some other tanks, it's actually pretty decent, but this is a heavy tank. This is a Russian heavy tank. We don't care about signal range on our Russian heavy tanks. It only really tells you where the allies and the enemies are. But in this tank, you're most likely going to know where most of your enemies are at all times because you're going to be on the front line. And if you don't know where your enemies are, well, that's on you. But is there anything else that I need? Ah, yes, the traverse speed of the tank. Okay, there is something I forgot about it. So the traverse speed on this tank is about 28 degrees per second, which is actually not too bad for this kind of a tank. I mean, traverse speed is very relevant because it's still a heavy tank, but some heavy tanks really do need a good traverse speed. And you know what? This thing actually isn't too bad. 28 degrees per second is pretty good for the Defender. Yeah, there you go. Mobility on the Defender. Okay, so I am going to describe some things you might need on the Defender before you take it out. Like, Maybe some equipment. You know what? Yeah, some equipment. Okay. Well, so because of that long reload, I mean, the fact that the IS-3 literally fires 1 round per minute faster than this tank, it's at 4.8, and this tank is at 3.8, you're gonna need a gun rammer on the Object 252U. The standard reload on this tank is like 15.5 seconds, and well, that's... Oh wow, hey, look at that, I was right, it's 15.5 seconds, whoopee, I deserve a cookie. When you put that gun rammer on this tank, you are really gonna notice it. I mean, it drops like 1.5 seconds. Oh, 1.5 seconds, that's a long time. But in this game, honestly, 1.5 seconds can literally mean the difference between life and death. And, well, you need it. That's all I'm gonna say. You just need that gun rammer. It's really gonna help. What else could you use on this tank? Binocular telescope? I mean, if you really want to go scouting in your Defender, then you can put the camo net at the binocular telescope in the optics. If you feel like playing your Defender as a scout. Some other things you can use. Toolbox is actually not a bad idea, because this tank gets blown. This tank's tracks get blown off every time it's shot, just because they're completely exposed. So Toolbox might be a good idea, but maybe not a primary. Now, I would definitely recommend mostly using the Enhanced Gunlaying Drive and the Vertical Stabilizer Mark II, just to help this tank with the accuracy and the aiming time. Because, I mean, that vertical stabilizer, it's going to help stabilize your tank, so, you know, your reticle won't go off the screen, you won't have to spend so long aiming. And, you know, the gunlaying drive, of course, helps your aiming time, it decreases the number, it makes it faster. So, honestly, my initial set out for the Defender would be a gun rammer, gunlaying drive, and a vertical stabilizer. But that's just me, you know, I mean, other people have their ways of playing, and you can do whatever you want in the Defender. So right, I think I've pretty much just determined, I think I've just kind of described everything about this tank. Anyway, I think I've described what's mostly great about this tank, described some of its weaker points, like the, oh yeah, one final thing. One final thing, and I'll stop talking. Okay, so just be aware with this tank, the inner modules you might see here, the ammo racks, oh my god, the ammo racks, my goodness, they are literally located across, like, no, you can probably see the ammo racks along the side aren't very big, but the thing is, a lot of people like to use auto-aim in World of Tanks. Now, if you don't know what auto-aim is, it's basically where you can press the top right bumper and you can just aim at the central mass of the tank. And when you aim at the central mass of the tank, well, on this tank, I mean, the ammo racks are located right in the center, but still, just be careful if you're driving this tank, or if you're shooting this tank. If you shoot the pike nose, there's an ammo rack right behind it, and strangely enough, that emblem with the star and the flag on it, with the chain circle, the golden circle. If you shoot that emblem, there's actually an ammo rack located right behind that emblem. So it's pretty much just a weak spot saying, shoot me, shoot me, shoot me, I'm open. Literally, just shoot the star and you'll ammo rack this tank. But besides that though, this tank is great. I love it. This has very much become one of my favorite Tier 8 tanks. So anyway, this right here, this was my first game in the Defender. Now, this game was very, very fun and also very, very laggy. But in this game, there were literally only two. There were only like 2 Tier 8 tanks on the enemy. And you can see I literally destroyed that IS right there. Now one thing about the Defender is that this tank, honestly, I don't think there could be a better tank for seal clubbing than the Defender. This tank is just so ridiculously good at doing what it does. And what it does is putting really big rounds in the enemy tanks and then blocking all the shots. Now I'm on Wide Park, and this map is pretty... honestly, I could say this is like one of the top 3 maps for this tank. Like this, Ruhenberg, Himmelsdorf, and Berlin. Like those are some great maps for this Object 252U. Anyway, where was I going? Oh yeah, so here we go.
Enemies looking right at us.
So, yeah, see right there. That's what I'm talking about. This tank, if somebody just auto-aims at the side of this tank or at the pike nose, they can literally just detonate the ammo racks, which is just located all along the side. But this Tiger P, he came over the hill. He was determined to face hug a defender, and then all of a sudden when he gets close to me, he's like, "Oh shit, dude, what were we thinking?"
Dropping target.
I love it. I'm guilty of I'm guilty of it myself too. I've done that where face hug the high tier tank.
Reloaded.
Okay, so I don't know if you've really noticed what's going on so far. So this game has become kind of neck and neck.
We finished him off.
It's 5v5. Although in reality, I may as well count it like 5v8,
We lost
seeing
a
as
friendly vehicle.
they don't have a defender. And yeah, there's actually a KV2 on top of me. I was half convinced that this guy was gonna jump off the hill. Oh yeah, and look at that shot. 486 damage. Those are the kind of damage rolls you normally like to see on this tank. But I was half convinced that KV2 was gonna jump off, like try to jump on me when I walked out.
Locked and loaded.
Although if he did that, I was probably just gonna drive backwards into the little ditch. Anyway, so this is near the ending stages of the game.
Locked on.
So what's left? I mean, there's a T-28 concept left. There is a T-34-85, which I'm not going to see at all this game. He's going to get killed by somebody else. Probably that Tiger on my team. Yes, there's a Tiger on my team. Hey, look at this. Boom. 421 damage. That's like half that T-28 concept health just shaved off. And that was actually a very low damage. Oh, that was actually a below the average damage roll. Oh yeah. I was having a very laggy game. I couldn't figure out where to shoot, and I'm like, aim at the central mass. And all of a sudden, from behind me, a wild KV-85 appears. And he can't pen me. But strangely enough though, this guy in the KV-85 behind me, he's firing high explosives, and oh shit, there he is. And it's at this moment that the KV-85 is rethinking all of his life decisions right now, as he's getting... He's about to get completely destroyed by this defender. Look at this. Boom. Yes, I have actually seen this defender do up to 600 damage with a good damage roll. Oh yeah, and then I get kill stolen by the Tiger. That was fun.
Great job, man.
Oh, and one more thing I forgot to say about this defender. Holy crap, is it good at making money? I mean, look at this. I mean, sure, I did 5,400 damage and all. I mean, that's still a good game nonetheless, but I normally tend to make about 163 grand. Okay, not typically. I'm literally talking out of my ass right now. So, normal victories, I normally tend to make about 100 grand per battle. This thing is very good at making money. Yeah. Okay, next clip. I've stopped. Alright, so, this next game I'm in, this is... Would you look at it? It's another map. It's another match on White Park. But unlike the last one, I'm playing live. Dun dun dun.
Get this show on the road.
So yes, I am playing live, so everything you're gonna see is just completely improvised. So, looks like on the enemy team, this might be a bit more of a challenge than the last game you saw, because there's actually some tier 8 tanks that can do some real trouble. Like, they have an enemy defender, as well as a KV-5, and what else they got? An M6, an M682E1. All the enemy tanks, I see them all, they're all poking the ridge.
Enemies got us in their sights.
Hey, what doing?
They pierced their armor. Target
That
locked.
was a nice damage roll. 500 damage. Oh, Type 59, he's getting a bit cocky.
Ready to fire.
What is that hammer? Wow, that is either a very bold or stupid move from that hammer.
Like that one went right through.
I'm gonna go with the second one. Okay, this game is starting to look a little bit rusty.
Enemies got us in there.
See if I can put a shot into the M6. Oh, before he gets away! Ah. Yeah, there's that reload I was telling you about. It could mean the difference between life and death.
Fire on target.
Doesn't look like the team is doing very well so far. What is that M6 doing? Oh, shit.
Locked and loaded. Target locked.
Ah, crap. It bounced. Oh my goodness. Okay, wow. I'm not making the defender look very good, but I think any tank would be struggling at this point.
Dropping target.
Ah, crap. Shot the Panther's gun barrel.
Been hit.
Hey, trying to push the dead tank. Bastard. Yeah, I'm not in a very good spot right now. I'm trying my best, but I think there's only so much I can really do. There's also another defender on my flank, and, well, I think I'm only going to last so long against this onslaught. But I guess I'll die trying, then. Oh, this KV-3, he's got some real desperation here.
They destroyed
Well, I guess I'll just shoot this T-29. I mean, he's just kind of wants to die. Oh my goodness, look at that. We are getting slaughtered this game. This KV-3 is really determined to push that carcass. Oh my. Oh god damn it, I shot the barrel of the tank again.
locked on. Enemies looking right at us. They hit one of our tracks. Another one.
Ah, fuck off. Oh my goodness, they keep shooting my back. Yeah. Oh wow, he had the stock gun. Where did he shoot me? Wow, I don't know how the hell he penned the front of the defender from this kind of an angle with the stock gun. Maybe he shot the hatch, or maybe he got really lucky with an HE round, but oh my goodness, look at that. We're all dead. That went well. GG. Well, we did very well. So I killed 2 out of the 4 tanks that we killed on their team. Oh, look at this. This is what I'm telling you about. Look at how much freaking money this tank makes. I mean, besides me earning a... Okay, well, maybe it's not really this much because I earned a 125% boost. But still, though, 99 grand. I mean, even with the small op like this, you can still earn a ton of money with this tank. I guess... And look at 2,500 damage blocked. I gotta say though, the armor on this tank is very strong at this tier. And well, looking at the team statistics, it's obvious these guys didn't really have enough chromosomes between them to intellectually challenge Justin Bieber. But well, what can you do? I can't really force these guys to do well. That's just them. Yeah, there's another defender on the game. Let's see how you did. Oh, I guess he's not really important then. He's not me. So yeah, I full out killed that T-29, derped the Cromwell on the face, and well, that's about it. We only killed 4 tanks between us. It's not very good. Oh well. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the garage. So there you have it, my fellow communist Russian bears. There is the Object 252U Defender, the most communist tank of all of communist Russia. Well, back when it was all communist and stuff. It is the most glorious tank you can wish for. Watch your enemies destroy with your 122mm barrel and your armor made out of stalinium, which can only be killed by the most political of dissidents. Okay, I'm gonna stop the Russian talking. Okay, so this helped me finally seeing what the defender's really like. What's my opinion on this tank? I love it. I love this defender. It is just a really awesome tank. It's become one of my favorite tier 8 tanks, not just in premiums but in all time, just because it's so good. I mean, you've seen what this tank is like facing tier 8s. When this tank isn't being overrun and swarmed by 10 different tanks, it can be pretty good. The armor works, mostly frontally. And even from that one game with the Cromwell shooting me in the rear, you can also see that this tank, like, if you angle it slightly, you can bounce quite a lot of shots with the spaced armor. Well, I guess I'll just wrap up the video in. So, I think this tank's good. I like the armor, I like the gun. The gun can be annoying at times, just because of that accuracy. You can have a lot of trouble on open maps where you're sniping, but the gun is a lot of fun. Especially when you get to put those high caliber 122mm rounds into the side of tier 6 tanks and just watch them burn. That is just a joy. It is so communist and glorious that how could you not love this tank? Now I know that there's also the Patriot in the store, and well, I guess another question is, which should you go for, the Defender or the Patriot? Like, which tank should you buy if you were thinking on buying one? And my answer to that is, if you want a tank that, if you want something that is a true heavy tank and that, you know, blocks damage and puts high caliber rounds into the enemy tanks, go with the Defender. But if you want something that plays a little bit more like a medium tank with really thick armor, go for the Patriot. So anyway, I guess I'll just wrap up the video then. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, and maybe the bell icon too. Subscribe for more videos. Alright, that was weird.